Very good. And now it's on live. Qasim Bhai, you're ready. Okay, wrong thing. Slide view, full screen. You wanna do that?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد
Like I could use
سبحانك يا الله تعاليت يا رحمن أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا رحمن تعاليت يا كريم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ملك تعاليت يا مالك أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قدوس تعاليت يا سلام أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مؤمن تعاليت يا مهيمن أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا عزيز تعاليت يا جبار أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا متكبر تعاليت يا متجبر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا خالق تعاليت يا بارئ أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مصور تعاليت يا مقدر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا هادي تعاليت يا باقي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا وهاب تعاليت يا تواب أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا فتاح تعاليت يا مرتاح أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا سيدي تعاليت يا مولاي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قريب تعاليت يا رقيب أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مبدي تعاليت يا معيد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا حميد تعاليت يا مجيد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قديم تعاليت يا عديم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا غفور تعاليت يا شكور أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا شاهد تعاليت يا شهيد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا حنان تعاليت يا منان أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا باعث تعاليت يا وارث أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا محيي تعاليت يا مميت أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا شفيق تعاليت يا رفيق أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا أنيس تعاليت يا مؤنس أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا جميل تعاليت يا جميل أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا خبير تعاليت يا بصير أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا حفيظ تعاليت يا مليك أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا معبود تعاليت يا موجود أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا غفار تعاليت يا قهار أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مذكور تعاليت يا مشكور أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا جواد تعاليت يا معاذ أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا جمال تعاليت يا جلال أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا سابق تعاليت يا رازق أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا صادق تعاليت يا خالق أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا سميع تعاليت يا سريع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا رفيع تعاليت يا بديع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا فعال تعاليت يا متعال أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قاضي تعاليت يا راضي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قاهر تعاليت يا طاهر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا عالم تعاليت يا حاكم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا دائم تعاليت يا قائم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا عاصم تعاليت يا قاسم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا غني تعاليت يا مغني أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا وفي تعاليت يا قوي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا كافي تعاليت يا شافي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مقدم تعاليت يا مؤخر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا أول تعاليت يا آخر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ظاهر تعاليت يا باطن أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا رجاء تعاليت يا مرتجى أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ذا المن تعاليت يا ذا الطول أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا حي تعاليت يا قيوم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا واحد تعاليت يا أحد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا سيد تعاليت يا صمد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قدير تعاليت يا كبير أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ولي تعاليت يا متعالي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا علي تعاليت يا علا أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ولي تعاليت يا مولا أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ذار تعاليت يا باري أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا خافض تعاليت يا رافع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مقسط تعاليت يا جامع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا معز تعاليت يا مضل أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا حافظ تعاليت يا حفيظ أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا قادر تعاليت يا مقتدر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا عليم تعاليت يا حليم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا حكم تعاليت يا حكيم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا معتي تعاليت يا مانع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ضار تعاليت يا نافع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مجيب تعاليت يا حسيب أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا عادل تعاليت يا فاصل أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا لطيف تعاليت يا شريف أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا رب تعاليت يا حق أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ماجد تعاليت يا واحد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا عفو تعاليت يا منتقم أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا واسع تعاليت يا موسع أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا رؤوف تعاليت يا عطوف أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا فرد تعاليت يا وتر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مقيت تعاليت يا محيط أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا وكيل تعاليت يا عدل أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مبين تعاليت يا متين أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا بر تعاليت يا ودود أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا رشيد تعاليت يا مرشد أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا نور تعاليت يا منور أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا نسير تعاليت يا ناصر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا صبور تعاليت يا صابر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا محسين تعاليت يا منشي أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا سبحان تعاليت يا ديان أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا مغيث تعاليت يا غياث أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا فاطر تعاليت يا حاضر أجرنا من النار يا مجير سبحانك يا ذا العز والجمال تباركت يا ذا الجبروت والجلال سبحانك يا لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين فاستجبنا له ونجيناه من الغم وكذلك ننجي المؤمنين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين وحسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Lord, our Creator of this universe, and peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad and his progeny and our living Imam Mahdi of Allah Ta'ala for the Sharif. We thank Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to give us this opportunity in this blessed month to avail of these blessings, and inshallah, may Allah accept all our prayers and ibadat and du'as. Inshallah, I'm going to talk about this topic, which is called an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, of some incidents that have happened in our community with people getting sick from diseases that could be prevented. So I thought this was the appropriate topic to deal with, because most of our illnesses are due to chronic inflammation. And that's connected with a lot of things: our diet, our lifestyle, exercise, sleep, meditation, prayers, all these things are involved. That's why I'm going to discuss some of the important things here. Next, please. So this is the overview. I'm going to give a definition of what inflammation is about, the incidence of inflammation, the effects in our body, and how do we treat it. Next, please. Inflammation is a body's defense mechanism. We need that for our healing and protection. But there are two types of inflammation. One is called acute inflammation, which is like if you get cut or pricked with a thorn, you get a small cut, the body has to heal that, and that's called acute inflammation, or also good inflammation. But the other aspect is chronic, long-term, low-grade inflammation, which is called bad inflammation, because that is a chronic process which wreaks havoc on our body, because slowly eats away on our defense mechanisms and results a lot of our illnesses of different kinds, like arthritis, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, dementia, and all that is related to chronic inflammation. Next, please. Now, this slide again shows that chronic inflammatory diseases are the most common significant cause of death. The WHO ranks chronic diseases as the greatest threat to human health. And if you see the slides, there are all these diseases, from heart disease, brain, Alzheimer's, pulmonary diseases, neuropathies, arthritis, autoimmune diseases such as arthritis of different kinds, neurological diseases like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, and ocular diseases like macular degeneration. These are all connected to chronic inflammation. Next, please. As I mentioned before, all sorts of diseases are connected to chronic inflammation. It causes tissue damage and reduces our function, and we don't function properly, or we don't achieve our full potential. Because if you're chronically ill, our mind doesn't work, even our prayers don't have the same effect. And it leads to premature aging. Next, please. Again, this is another slide which shows the different diseases linked to chronic inflammation. As you can see, it affects practically the whole body, different areas. Next, please. Now, one of the significant effects of the disease is blockage of our arteries. It's called atherosclerosis. And that results in narrowing of the arteries and improper blood supply, which can result in myocardial infarction, heart attacks, strokes, cerebral infarctions, gangrene of the foot, and aneurysms, all sorts of things result from chronic inflammation. And these things usually start at a very young age. But alhamdulillah, they have proved now that by proper lifestyle changes, you can reverse that. Some people are genetically predisposed to these things, but as they say, genetics only loads the gun, but your lifestyle triggers the trigger. So lifestyle can make a big difference if we take proper care. We can reverse a lot of these changes. Next, please. Now this is another picture of hardening of the arteries and how it affects the blood supply to different regions of the body, and slowly it builds up from improper food intake, etc. Next, please. This picture shows a coronary artery of which is blocked in a 40-year-old man. Next, please. Now, how do we treat this? The treatment starts primarily with lifestyle. The first is diet. What kind of foods we should eat and what kind of food we should avoid. Fasting is a very important component. Alhamdulillah, Allah has given us this blessing of this month of Ramadan, which can help us in our reversing some of these changes. But obviously, that has to be continued through the whole year, and also that's why we have Mustahab fast on Mondays and Thursdays. And modern research shows that there are now societies, they're called 5-2 societies. They eat for 5 days and fast for 2 days. This is the modern research. And time-restricted eating, which means that you should not be constantly snacking and all that, because every time we eat food, it takes about 6 hours for the food to be completely assimilated in our body. So, and it's a rhythm. It's called a circadian rhythm. And every cell, every organ of our body has a clock, and that has to be properly tuned. It rests. It has to be rested. So, there's a researcher from California. His name is Sachin Panda. He found that if he gives the same number of calories in 24 hours to different groups of mice. One mice were given, they could eat anytime they come in and eat it. And the second group were restricted to 8 to 10 hours. The mice which were eating continuously became obese, hypertensive, and died prematurely. The mice which were restricted to 8 or 10 hours of eating were much healthier, very active, moving around. So it's time-restricted eating is a very well-known concept now. As a matter of fact, we have an app that you can download, and it will tell you when to eat, what to eat, and all that. Exercise is a very important component. We'll discuss that more in detail. Sleep, healthy relationships, very important. Our relationship with our close family members or friends and all that makes a big difference. And as I mentioned in that other talk with social wilaya, the Rosetto effect. The community in Pennsylvania, they're settled by immigrants from Italy. They lived together. There was no incidence of heart disease below 55 years of age. So a medical school came and did research to find out what was the uniqueness. Why were they so protected from heart disease? They found they ate the same rich food, Italian food, but they were very close together. They had strong relationship between the family members and community members. So that protected them from heart disease and other illnesses. Then we'll discuss some of the stress, how to reduce stress, meditation, and prayers. Next, please. And as far as diet, we have a lot of hadiths about diet. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we want of excessive food, for it poisons the heart with hardness, khashiyatul qalb, and blocks the soul from hearing good advice. So that's very important. Imam Ali alayhi salam mentioned overeating spoils piety. So and Hippocrates, which is the father of modern medicine, said, "Let your food be your medicine, When diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. And when diet is correct, there is no need for medicine. Next, please. Now, these are some of the foods that we should avoid, and that is called standard American diet, which is red meat and cheese and dairy products, refined foods. It's also appropriately called SAD, standard American diet. High in saturated fats, red meat, etc. Sugar is a big culprit. Sugar is the toxin, sugar is the poison. Refined carbohydrates, white flour, cookies, cakes, and all these are the very dangerous and toxic things, so we should really avoid them. And also sugary drinks. A lot of the soft drinks are full of sugar. They have high fructose corn syrup, and this is one of the things that especially our youth can get easily addicted to. I was reading a book written by a famous author. His name is Tom Rath. It's a very interesting story. He, at 16 years of age, he was diagnosed as having a congenital genetic disease where he didn't have the cancer suppression gene. So at 16 years, he had cancer of his eye, and the eye had to be removed. Then he decided that he's going to do something for humanity. So he took up this lifestyle approach, and he's now 49 years of age, and his life expectancy was only 37 years. But now he has surpassed that by 12 years, and he's a very motivational speaker. He wrote a book called Eat, Move, Sleep. And he said just by lifestyle, he has overcome this disease that he had. So he calls sugar as a candy for cancer. And trans fats are another problem because most of our fried foods, which are so delicious and we all like it, the pakoras and French fries and all that, they belong to that group of trans fats. And there is a term they call AGES, AGES, ankylosing glycolated end products. So they go directly and settle in our arteries and cause atherosclerosis. So, and all this, anything fried and crusty and all that, which is very tasty, but that go and settle directly into our arteries. Foods high in sodium we should avoid. Most of our vegetable oils contain mostly omega-6s. Omega-3s are the better fats, omega-6s are the inflammatory fats. So all our vegetable oils except, for example, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and a few other oils have omega-3s. The ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s to 6s should be at least like 4:1. But most of our cooking is done with omega-6 oils, which are the common vegetable oils. You should try to avoid them as much as possible. Next, please. Now, as I mentioned before, this Tom Rath, his book is called Eat, Move, Sleep, and he's one of the most read non-fiction writer on Amazon. And he survived with odds of developing cancer through lifestyle changes. Next, please. The healthy food that we should eat are whole unprocessed grains like legumes, beans, and alhamdulillah, we eat that also with different types of dals and other things which are helpful. Wild caught fish. Tilapia is the worst fish possible because all commercialized, and it's fed in farms with antibiotics, antifungals, and etc. And also even farm salmon, they add coloring to make salmon look orange or pink. So it is better to eat wild caught. Vegetables are very important. They're called rainbow colors of different types of vegetable, lettuce, kale, broccoli. All these things are very important. Avocado is very good because avocado is very rich in omega-3s and it has fiber. So unprocessed olive oil, Unprocessed means cold pressed, not processed with heat or anything like that. And spices, which alhamdulillah, our diets are very important. We have spices in our diet: garlic, turmeric, cinnamon, saffron, cumin, zira. And seeds are important: black seed, chia seeds. Chia seeds are very good because they contain protein, they have omega-3s and fiber, and chia seeds can even give you enough protein equivalent to eggs and even like salmon, fish, like that. So chia seeds are they are called one of the superfoods. Walnut is important. Walnut has a lot of omega-3s. Almonds, pistachios, these are all good to snack on, because sometimes when we get hungry, our willpower goes down the lane. We don't have willpower. We eat whatever comes in front of us. So it's better to have these snacks available. That's why they say dieting does not start from your kitchen or your pantry. It starts from the grocery store. So you should not bring these things at home, which you are not supposed to eat, because when you're hungry, you're going to reach for it and eat it, and there's no self-control at that time. Focus more on plant-based foods. I think that the saying of Imam Ali said, don't make your stomach graveyard of animals. So Imam has warned us on these things. Increase high fiber foods. They are good for not only our health, but also health of the bacteria that we have inside us. The whole bacteria, like they are 3 or 4 times our own number of cells. And these bacteria are called microbiota, and they prefer to eat, thrive on fiber. And the amazing thing, this is the miracle of God, that the fiber that we don't digest, the bacteria thrive on it, and they produce what they call small chain fatty acids. And these are anti-inflammatory. They are good for the heart and all this. And the fiber is very important. Next, please. And this is just a picture of all the variety of healthy foods that we can eat. Next, please. And again, as I mentioned before, fasting is a very important part of this whole concept. It has beneficial effects on our autoimmune system, type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, reduces different inflammatory markers, and improves our gut bacteria. I was studying research which has done how fasting even changes our profile of our good bacteria inside us. And also it stimulates a process called autophagy. Auto means self-eating. What happens is the body wears down and produces compounds which are broken down because of our metabolism, and those compounds have to be removed. If they're not removed, they act as a source of inflammation. And one of the things, theory because developing cancer is if autophagy is defective, so these cells which are diseased and not performing well, they act as a source of inflammation and lead to cancer. So autophagy is important. Another thing which is important for our energy production is called mitochondria. And mitochondria, again, if you fast, if you challenge the system, there's a term used called hormesis, that if you challenge the system, it becomes more stronger. So that's why
Type 2 or type 1?
type 1 is autoimmune disease. Okay. But also type 2 also comes, but type 1 is the more of the autoimmune. So again, the energy production, the mitochondria get diseased and go broken down. They have to be removed to produce new bacteria. I was reading another study that if you just by the breaking down of our disease cells, we can get 20% of our proteins. So alhamdulillah, Allah has created a system where fasting and all that we can help. We don't have to eat too much. You know, our body has enough resources most of the time to take care of things. Next, please. Again, exercise is a very important part of this whole lifestyle situation. They found there's certain inflammatory biomarkers, and one of them is called C-reactive protein. And it's a marker of how much inflammation is in the system. And exercise, they've found it reduces that. The US Department of Health recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. Next, please. Yoga is very important because yoga has been found to reduce inflammation in the body, reduces stress hormones, increases endorphins, which are natural painkillers, and increases memory and decreases anxiety. You know, usually we associate yoga with other Eastern religions and all that. I don't think there's anything to do with that. It's not. It's good for our system, and it increases the flexibility. You feel better, increases your mood, you perform better. So now there's online. You don't even have to go to a yoga class. I usually go to a YouTube presentation by this guy, Sean Young. He's a very good yoga instructor. Sean Woke, his name. Sean Week, V-I-G-U-E. And it's a male. I usually didn't want to go to where mixed classes are there because women are not appropriately dressed. So I usually use his YouTube presentation, and I use that. And for women, there are also available yoga classes online. So they really don't have to go any place. At one time, we used to have yoga classes here. There was a lady who was revered. She used to come and help us with yoga classes for the women. So that's a good thing. And I think if we do it in the center, people can get together and avail of this facility. It's very important because if you're mentally strong and healthy and positive thinking, it can perform better. You know, most of our community suffers from hidden depression, because there are a lot of stresses in life, and we're not used to this thing, especially living in the West. We come from a different culture, so we need to make sure we reach our full potential. Next, please. Now, sleep is a very important thing. What has happened in the last 10 to 15 years, they found that people are sleeping 25% less. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is, one of the most important thing is these smartphone and devices that we are constantly looking at it. We found that 79% of the people reach for their smartphone within 10 minutes of waking up. And they sleep with it, they wake up with it, they use this as an alarm clock. The recommendation is don't use your smartphones as your alarm clock. Use a separate, simple clock that you used to use before. Because it's very tempting. Once you reach that, the fear of missing out, FOMO is called. You try to reach for that because it's a human tendency, what's happening in the world, so we are constantly bombarded with information, and it is not good for our health and our sleep. So prioritizing sleep, sleep helps repair the body while you're sleeping, reduces low-grade inflammation. The more awake you are, the more stressed out you are, always thinking. And at least 7 hours are necessary for optimal recovery. There is a system in the brain called the G-lymphatic system, which removes the waste products from the brain. And that happens during sleep. And if you don't sleep enough, all these waste products are accumulating in the brain, and that leads to dementia. Also, during sleep, there's a chemical secreted by the body called melatonin. And melatonin is linked with our light that we see through our eyes. And the melatonin level goes up at night and when you're sleeping. But if you're watching on Bluetooth, the devices which have blue light, and what has happened was, previously our ancestors didn't have lights that we have right now, LEDs and all this. We have made our night days. They used to sleep soon after sunset, and they used to wake up early sunrise. But we have made our nights, so most of the thing we sleep so late. Usually 11 o'clock, midnight is not unusual for people to be awake on. And I remember when I was growing up, in our house at about 9 o'clock, everything will be shut down. But now it's 9 o'clock is like you're just starting, or night starting. So We should be very careful of that, especially our young children whose brains are developing. You are exposing them to this long hours, the brain doesn't develop all the full capacity. Next, please. Now, I just want to talk about melatonin. It's secreted in the evenings after the sun goes down, and it diminishes towards the early hours. It regulates our sleep. Exposure to blue light from digital devices suppresses its production, interrupting our sleep. So you should avoid digital devices at least, they say, 1 hour before sleep. And they said even if you're going to charge your digital device, it's better to put it in a separate room, don't put in your bedroom. And you should never go to bed having a digital device with you. It's the melatonin has immunoprotective effect and also antioxidant effect. I was just reading an article just came out a little while ago. It says even our gut bacteria produce this chemical melatonin. So this human body is amazing, as Imam Ali alayhi salam said, you have whole universe inside you. And if you investigate those things, it's like you have a universe outside with all these galaxies and all this, but inside us there is another universe. Next, please. Now, as I mentioned before, sleep interruption, this has become an epidemic. It affects the melatonin secretion, it increases insulin resistance, we become pre-diabetic. Even say 1 night of lack of sleep increases our insulin resistance, that we become pre-diabetic. And it also increases our stress hormones, and we can even feel the aches and pains if we don't sleep 1 night. And that's what called fibromyalgia, like our bodies are inflamed and all that. Just 1 night of lack of improper sleep. And now people are going without sleep for days. Especially the people who are night workers, for example, shift workers. It's very hard for them. They have to adjust it. Also, the other important thing is because of that, our chemicals in our body, hormones, appetite hormones, all they are disturbed. So there is one hormone which suppresses appetite. When we don't sleep, that goes up. So you feel hungry all the time. So you'll notice that if you're awake, you feel hungry, you want to eat something, all right? And that leads to weight gain. And there's a hormone which suppresses appetite, that also goes down. So you feel hungry. So I'm sure we all notice that if you're awake at night, you want to eat something. So it weakens our immune system. A lot of the brothers I was talking to yesterday, he was telling he's getting constantly sick, cold, sore throats, and I said, how do you sleep? No, I said, I've been working with my job, and it's been keeping me awake. So I said, you need to regulate your sleep, because otherwise your immune system is weak. You're susceptible to this. And the very important thing is sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is again becoming an epidemic proportion. I see in my practice, I'm ear, nose, and throat specialist, so a lot of people come to me with snoring and sleep apnea. And about 40% of the people have different grades of sleep apnea, but sleep apnea is very common, and it's directly linked to obesity, overweight. There are people who are thin, but they're very rare to have sleep apnea. Could be some anatomy on the throat and all that. And sleep apnea can also happen in children who have big tonsils and adenoids. So it's a very important thing. And somebody mentioned one of our community members, he had no risk factors, but he had a stroke. So they found that he had risk factor was sleep apnea. And what happens in sleep apnea is you go into periods where you don't breathe, there's no oxygen going into your system. So your heart, which is sensitive to lack of oxygen, becomes irregular. You can have a stroke, and irregular heartbeat, heart attack also can happen during sleep apnea. And because the brain is not getting oxygen, it also got irritated and inflamed. and people get nightmares from that, sleepwalking, restless legs, and all these things can happen because of sleep apnea. And it also a predisposing factor for dementia and Alzheimer's. Next, please. So another important aspect of our lifestyle is our relationship with our friends and our family members. So you need to have healthy relationships. You should try to avoid negative discussions as much as we possibly can, because negativity is a cause of inflammation. Whenever there's argument, stress hormone goes up, and then we get into this inflammatory state. Our body has this system called autonomic nervous system. That's how we breathe and all that. And it has two components. One is called the sympathetic, and the other one is called parasympathetic. The sympathetic is the fight-flight response, which is good for survival, all right? But it's only for acute stages. Like, for example, you see in wild animals, a predator, a lion attacks a zebra, and the zebra either runs away or it gets killed, and you will see in a few minutes the zebras are grazing again as if nothing happened. They are not worried about a second lion coming in. So they have acute stress. But human beings, Allah has given us the capability of intellect, so we worry about paper tigers, stresses of job, financial stresses, all these things. So we should try to go into a state where we are not constantly exposed to the stresses. And in that case, mindfulness and all the practices come into play. And the other part of the autonomic nervous system is called the parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is regulated by the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is the nerve which is called the 10th cranial nerve. It starts from the brain and innervates all our organs. And heart rate, the more stimulated the vagus is, the more calmer a person is. Heart rate goes down, blood pressure goes down. So one of the researchers had done research on vagus, Stephen Porges. He said the Islamic rituals of sajda and ruku and all these things stimulates the vagus nerve. So it calms you down. As Maulana was mentioning, going into prolonged sajdas, it's calming effect on our body. Says, just going to sajda, you don't just do say zikr or something, that stimulates the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is also affected by our vocal cords. There are nerve connections. So I connect myself, I think, when we say salawat loudly, which is we are stimulating the vagus nerve. So these all have calming effects. I have the Quran, Allah zikrullah tatma'inna al-qulub. Only the zikr of Allah only can give you tranquility and peace. So zikr of Allah, and that also with presence of mind, not just a verbal utterance. It should affect us. You should internalize it. Next, healthy relationships. Also, when two people come in contact with each other, they secrete a chemical called oxytocin. And oxytocin has been shown to be, it's also called the nature's bonding hormone, bonding chemicals. So hugging a child, hugging your close family members, the closer your family member you hug, the more oxytocin is released. And this has been proven by different lab experiments and all. So that's why I say 20-second hugs. I have my grandchildren come and hug me and they count 20 when they hug me. So I try to develop this habit in them, so at least we all feel good about it. Next, please. Now, reducing stress. The stress is a part of our life, but how we react to stress is very important. There's nothing, if you're alive, you're going to have stress. You cannot be without stress. It's part of our survival. So we have a lot of du'as and meditation. For example, Dua Kumail, we say Yaman, Ismahu Dua, and Zikru Shifa. Oh Allah, whose name is the remedy and whose remembrance is healing. I mean, if you pay attention to these du'as itself, there is so much positive effect on our system, because a lot of times we recite these du'as without even paying attention. You know, like we recite Dua Kumail, for example, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And as Maulana Ali Murtad Dedi mentioned, we don't even connect for 3 minutes. We're reciting this dua, and usually it happens on a Saturday, next day is working day, so you get a person who is recite the fastest and finish it. But he said even don't have to recite the whole dua, but connect with Allah for that few minutes. And spending time in nature. There is a hadith, one of the Maulanas, Allama Zishan al-Jawadi used to mention that Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam had a garden in Medina, that he used to go into the garden and spend time and being thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for under every tree. He would go and pray and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings that He has given us. Nature is very important. They found people who spend time in nature are more calmer, more relaxed, but unfortunately we don't do that, you know. And solitude is very important. I was reading some hadiths about solitude, how important solitude is to do zikr of Allah and connect with Allah in that time. So these are all things which will curb or reduce our inflammation, and that way help with other diseases. Next, please. Now, meditation we can translate in our language as tafakkur or contemplation and all that. So there is a hadith say one saat is 1 moment of not even an hour. 1 moment of tafakkur has been linked to 70 years of ibadah. So how does that 1 moment make you ibadah, the reward of 70 years? Because when you do tafakkur, you go into the depth of these things, you know, and then you connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why they say sleep with yaqeen is better than praying the whole night without the marifat. Next, please. And in conclusion, just a take-home message. Our bodies are an amana, trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is wajib on us to take care of them by eating healthy foods and getting enough sleep, exercise, reducing stress through living simply. Most of our lives are very complicated. We should make them simple. Don't waste our resources, and increasing our remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next, please. Now, this is the dua from Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. Thursday's dua, he says, "O Allah, decree for me health through which I may have the strength to obey Thee." And in the Tuesday's dua, he says, "O Allah, Allahumma jalni min awliyaika, fa inna awliyaika la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun." O Allah, place me among your friends, for your friends have no fear shall be upon them, nor shall they experience sorrow. This is a very important thing to explain a little bit on that. Say, why do we fear something? Fear is of the insecurities, fear of the future, what our life is going to be, and how financially secure we'll be. If Allah is controlling everything, you do your best and leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's cause of fear, insecurity. So friends of Allah, we reach that status of being an awliya or friend of Allah, then we don't have any fear, because this is under His control. He knows even if we have a difficulty, Allah is testing us by that. And nor shall the sorrow. Sorrow is for regret, what has happened in the past. Maazallah, we have committed some wrong deeds or something. Allah said He will forgive everything except shirk. So it is very important. Now I want to mention, listening to Maulana, he says, our sixth Imam, Imam Jaffari, he was given poison. He was slow poison. So he, towards his last stages of his life, he had become very weak, emaciated, skin and bones. So one of his companions comes and sees the Imam, and he started crying. He said, "Don't cry. My Lord knows my condition better than you do. And if He wants me to be in this condition, I'm pleased with it." So this is the level of iman and marifat we should have. So even if we have some difficulties, we are all going to have some difficulties. Allah is going to test us with different things, with loss of wealth, lot of children, loss of close relatives. But everything is being recorded, even an atom's weight of thing being recorded. So there's nothing hidden from him. So if he wants us to be in that condition, there is severe hikmat in this. He's improving our status or giving us rewards. And as the hadith from Imam Zainul Salam, he said, the reward that you will get for the difficulties you're facing in this world, in Akhirat, you will have said, Allah would have given us more difficulties so that our status and what relief we get the reward we get in Akhirat. So, Alhamdulillah, with this little dua, we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings we have, and may Allah keep us under His protection and hasten the appearance of our living Imam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Any questions or anything?
Harold,